Have you ever wondered why it sometimes takes losing something to realize its true value? Why clarity only seems to emerge in the silence left behind when someone steps away? Human emotions are complex, often hidden beneath layers of routine, distraction, and subconscious conditioning. A man may not fully understand the depth of his feelings until the energy he once took for granted is no longer present. And in that space where words are no longer exchanged, where presence is no longer a given, something powerful happens. It is in absence that truth begins to surface. When a person steps back, they are not just withdrawing physically, they are creating an energetic shift, a disruption that forces the mind and heart to confront what was previously ignored. A man who once seemed indifferent, unaffected, or emotionally distant may suddenly find himself restless, unsettled, drawn toward something he never consciously acknowledged. This is not manipulation, it is revelation. It is the space where suppressed emotions rise, where the subconscious begins to process what the conscious mind has denied. Because energy never lies. When someone steps away, the way a man responds, what he feels in that void reveals the truth he may not have even known himself. When we step back from a situation, especially in relationships, we create a space that allows clarity to emerge. This space is not just physical distance, but emotional and energetic detachment. Most people are deeply entangled in their emotions, responding from a place of habit rather than awareness. When a person is constantly present, reaching out, initiating conversations, or seeking validation, the energy dynamic remains the same. But the moment they pull back, a shift occurs. This shift is what reveals the true state of the connection. In relationships, we are often caught in cycles of reaction rather than conscious action. We text because we fear being forgotten. We call because we need reassurance. We stay close because we associate presence with security. But what if the real answers lie in the moments of absence? When someone steps back, they interrupt the emotional patterns at play. The brain, wired to seek familiarity, suddenly senses a change. This change forces a person to reflect rather than react. It is in this moment of reflection that their true emotions come to the surface. A man, like anyone, operates based on subconscious conditioning. If he has been taking someone's presence for granted, he may not have had the opportunity to truly assess his feelings. When that presence is no longer immediately available, something profound happens. His mind begins to process what that absence means. If he feels a deep sense of relief, it could indicate that the relationship was built on obligation rather than genuine connection. If he feels an ache, a pull, or an undeniable awareness of what is missing, that is the truth, speaking louder than words ever could. This is because emotions are not always fully realized in the moment. A person may not understand how much they value something until it is no longer there. This is not about manipulation or playing games. It is about allowing reality to surface without interference. When we are constantly engaging, we create noise. This noise makes it difficult to distinguish between habitual attachment and true emotional connection. But when we remove ourselves from the equation, the clarity that emerges is undeniable. Stepping back also shifts the energy dynamics in a relationship. When one person is always the giver, the initiator, or the one holding space, the balance can become skewed. If a man has grown accustomed to receiving attention without needing to reciprocate at the same level, he may not recognize his true emotional investment. But the moment that energy is withdrawn, he is left to sit with what remains. This is where the subconscious mind begins to work in ways it hadn't before. The absence of expected attention forces the brain to reassess the situation. Does he feel lighter, as if a burden has been lifted? Or does he feel unsettled, realizing that something meaningful is missing? The answer to that question reveals the depth of his feelings. The reason stepping back is so powerful is that it allows emotions to unfold organically, rather than being forced or influenced by external pressure. When a person is constantly being asked about their feelings or expected to provide reassurance, they may give responses based on expectation rather than truth. But when that expectation is removed, their actions or lack of them become the clearest indicator of what lies beneath the surface. This concept is deeply connected to the way human beings process attachment. The brain is designed to seek what is familiar and comfortable. When a person experiences a change in that familiarity, the response is what reveals their deepest truth. Some people run from discomfort, mistaking it for a sign that they should move on. Others lean into it, realizing that what they feared losing is actually something they deeply value. This is where stepping back becomes a test, not of manipulation, but of alignment. Stepping back is not about creating distance to provoke a reaction. It is about allowing space for truth to rise without interference. If a man truly values a connection, he will feel the shift. He will become aware of what is missing, and this awareness will either draw him closer or push him further away. Either outcome is a revelation. Either way, the truth emerges, not through words, but through energy, action, and emotional response. This is the power of space. It doesn't create emotions that aren't there, it simply reveals the ones that have been hidden beneath habit, fear, or unawareness. It allows what is real to surface while dissolving illusions. It shows whether a man's heart is fully engaged or if he was simply moving through the motions. The clarity that comes from stepping back is not something that can be forced. It is something that naturally unfolds when we allow it. Most people live their lives on autopilot, moving through their relationships with deeply ingrained patterns that dictate how they respond to love, connection, and emotional triggers. These patterns are shaped by past experiences, childhood conditioning, and subconscious beliefs that often operate without conscious awareness. When it comes to relationships, many people do not act based on what they truly feel in the present moment. Instead, they react based on past wounds, fears, and programming that have been running in the background for years. These emotional patterns create a predictable cycle where people repeat the same behaviors, have the same arguments, and fall into the same relational dynamics, often without realizing it. Breaking these cycles requires awareness, and awareness comes from disruption. When we step back from a situation, we disrupt the pattern. The automatic responses that normally dictate behavior no longer have the same triggers, forcing a person to confront their emotions in a way they haven't before. This is especially true in relationships. A man may have learned to suppress his emotions, to avoid vulnerability, or to remain emotionally detached because of past experiences. He may not even realize that he is repeating an old story, responding to a present situation with the emotional reflexes of his past. But when someone steps back, when they stop engaging in the same ways, they force the subconscious to reevaluate. The absence of familiar interaction creates a gap where the mind is no longer reacting, but is instead reflecting. It is in this gap that a person's true feelings begin to surface. Emotional conditioning is powerful because it is largely unconscious. Many men are raised with the belief that emotions should be controlled, that vulnerability is weakness, and that attachment is dangerous. These beliefs form the foundation of how they engage in relationships. If a man has learned to suppress his emotions, he may not even be aware of what he truly feels in a given moment. Instead, he operates based on what feels safe, what aligns with the emotional programming that has protected him in the past. But the moment he is faced with space, when a partner steps back and removes themselves from the usual dynamic, the emotional patterns he has relied on no longer function in the same way. This creates a moment of confrontation, where he must face his emotions without the usual distractions. This process can be uncomfortable because it brings to light emotions that have been buried beneath layers of conditioning. A man who has been conditioned to believe that love requires distance may suddenly realize that distance does not feel as freeing as he expected. A man who has avoided vulnerability may feel an unexpected sense of loss when the person he is used to having around is no longer there. These realizations do not come when things remain the same. They come when there is a disruption, when the usual patterns no longer apply. Many people try to force clarity in relationships through conversation, pressure, or seeking reassurance, but this often leads to more confusion. When a person is put on the spot, they often respond with conditioned reactions rather than true emotions. They say what is expected, what feels safe, or what they believe will maintain control over the situation. But when space is introduced, There is no external pressure guiding their response. There is only their internal truth. If a man has deep feelings that he has been suppressing, they will rise in the absence of the usual distractions. If he feels indifferent, that too will become clear. The removal of external triggers forces an internal reckoning. Breaking emotional conditioning does not happen overnight. It is a process of allowing old patterns to fall away so that something more authentic can take their place. Most people resist this process because it requires them to feel deeply, to face emotions that they have avoided for years. But this discomfort is necessary. It is in the discomfort of change that real emotional awareness emerges. When a person steps back, they are not creating new emotions in the other person. They are revealing what was already there, but buried beneath conditioned responses. For many men, this moment of realization is a turning point. Without space, they may have continued operating under the same subconscious programming, responding in the same habitual ways, and remaining unaware of their deeper feelings. But when the dynamic shifts, when they are left alone with their emotions, they are forced to see themselves clearly. They are no longer reacting from the past, but instead feeling the present. They may begin to recognize the depth of their connection, the value of what they had, or the emotions they had been avoiding. Or they may realize that they were only attached to the familiarity, not to the person themselves. Either way, the truth comes forward in a way that would not have been possible without breaking the old cycle. Stepping back is not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It is about interrupting the unconscious reactions that often control relationships and allowing space for something more real to emerge. Emotional conditioning keeps people stuck in repetitive patterns, never truly seeing their relationships or their feelings clearly. But the moment that pattern is broken, when the usual behaviors are no longer in place, the subconscious loses its grip. What remains is the truth, unfiltered, undeniable, and free from the weight of the past. Every interaction carries an energy, an unspoken frequency that dictates the emotional undercurrents of a relationship. Just as presence has an energetic pull, so does absence. When two people are connected, whether through love, attachment, or habit, their energies intertwine in a way that becomes almost imperceptible over time. One person's presence becomes a constant, something that is felt but not always consciously acknowledged. But the moment that presence is removed, something shifts. It is in that absence that emotions become amplified, revealing truths that may have been hidden beneath routine or familiarity. When a man experiences the absence of someone who was once consistently present in his life, his emotional response is not random. It is a direct reflection of how deeply he was connected. If the absence goes unnoticed, if it brings relief rather than discomfort, it reveals that his attachment may have been more out of convenience than true emotional depth. But if the absence feels unsettling, if it lingers in his mind, creating a sense of longing or restlessness, it exposes a deeper emotional investment, one that perhaps even he was unaware of until that moment. This is the power of absence. It does not create emotions, it exposes them. People often believe that love and attachment are consciously understood in the moment, but more often than not, true feelings are buried beneath layers of distraction and conditioning. A man may not fully realize the significance of a person in his life until their energy is no longer immediately accessible. When someone is always present, always reaching out, always available, the brain registers their presence as a given. The mind does not need to analyze their importance because they are simply there. But the moment that energetic presence is removed, the subconscious begins to take notice. The mind is wired to seek what is familiar. When something that was once constant is no longer there, the brain reacts as though there has been a disruption in its expected pattern. This reaction can take many forms: discomfort, longing, confusion, or even denial. Some may try to distract themselves, filling the space with other activities, people, or thoughts. Others may lean into the absence, allowing themselves to feel what they had previously suppressed. In both cases, the energy of absence has done its work. It has created an awareness that was not there before. This awareness is critical because it brings a level of emotional clarity that words often fail to provide. When a man is asked directly about his feelings, he may respond with what he believes to be true in the moment. He may say he is unsure, indifferent, or not ready to commit. But these words are often shaped by external influences: fear, ego, social conditioning. However, when he is left alone with his emotions, when he no longer has immediate access to the person he once engaged with, his internal truth begins to emerge. His actions, or lack thereof, become the clearest indicators of what he truly feels. Absence acts as a mirror, reflecting emotions in their rawest form. If he reaches out, if he finds himself thinking about the person more, if he feels a growing sense of loss, then his emotions are guiding him toward a realization he may have been avoiding. If he remains unaffected, if the space feels natural or even liberating, then that too is an answer. Either way, absence eliminates the noise of external influences, leaving only the undeniable reality of his own emotional state. In relationships, people often seek reassurance through direct communication, wanting to hear words that confirm love or attachment. But words can be misleading, shaped by temporary emotions, confusion, or even social expectations. Energy, however, does not lie. When someone steps back, they do not have to ask how the other person feels. Their absence will reveal it for them. It is in what the other person does, how they respond, what they feel in the quiet moments when no one is watching. These are the moments when truth is undeniable. The reason absence is so powerful is that it forces the mind to sit with what remains when external engagement is removed. It strips away the distractions and the automatic behaviors, leaving only raw, unfiltered emotions. If there is love, it will make itself known. If there is indifference, that too will become clear. There is no need for persuasion, convincing, or seeking answers through endless conversations. The response to absence is the answer itself. In the end, presence is something that can be taken for granted, but absence demands acknowledgement. It shifts the balance of energy, forcing a person to confront their own emotional reality. It creates a space where clarity is not sought, but naturally arises, revealing the true depth of connection that exists or doesn't. There is no greater truth than what is felt when something is missing. And in that space, a man's true feelings are no longer hidden behind words, habits, or expectations. They simply exist, undeniable and exposed. Emotional suppression is one of the most common yet unnoticed mechanisms that shape human relationships. Many men, often conditioned by societal expectations or personal experiences, develop a habit of pushing emotions aside rather than addressing them. This suppression is not always intentional. Rather, it becomes an automatic defense mechanism designed to maintain control, avoid vulnerability, and minimize discomfort. However, just because an emotion is suppressed does not mean it disappears. It remains beneath the surface, influencing thoughts, behaviors, and decisions in ways that may not be immediately obvious. When someone is constantly present in a man's life, his emotions remain in a state of equilibrium. The mind does not have to confront what is truly felt because there is no disruption forcing it to do so. But when that presence is removed, when a partner steps back, ceases communication, or disengages, the emotional suppression that has been operating in the background is suddenly challenged. This is because space and silence act as catalysts for unprocessed emotions to surface. The absence of external engagement forces the mind to face what was previously avoided, and in doing so, it begins to uncover emotions that were buried beneath layers of routine and familiarity. Men who suppress emotions often do so because they have been conditioned to equate emotional expression with weakness or instability. From a young age, many are taught, directly or indirectly, that showing feelings makes them vulnerable. Over time, this conditioning leads to the development of coping strategies that involve detachment, avoidance, or a focus on logic over emotion. In relationships, this can manifest as a reluctance to express affection, an inability to articulate feelings, or a tendency to withdraw when emotions become too intense. However, these coping strategies are not true indicators of emotional absence. They are merely surface level reactions to deeper emotions that remain hidden until something disrupts the pattern. Stepping back from a relationship creates this disruption. It removes the external elements that allow emotional suppression to continue unchecked. A man who is used to having a partner's presence as a given may not realize how much he values that connection until it is no longer readily available. In the silence, emotions that were once pushed aside begin to make themselves known. He may find himself thinking about the person more than expected, feeling an unfamiliar sense of longing, or even experiencing frustration without understanding why. These are signs that his emotions were never absent, they were simply buried. The mind is designed to protect itself from discomfort, which is why suppressed emotions often remain hidden for so long. However, emotions are not meant to be ignored indefinitely. They demand to be felt, processed, and understood. When a person steps back, they unknowingly create the perfect conditions for this emotional reckoning to occur. Without the usual distractions, without the immediate gratification of connection, the mind is left with only itself. And in that space, suppressed emotions rise to the surface, demanding attention. Some men may resist this process at first. The mind will try to rationalize the absence, to dismiss the emotions that begin to appear. Thoughts like, it doesn't matter, I'm fine, or I never needed them anyway, may arise as defense mechanisms. But emotions are not logical. They do not adhere to reason, nor do they vanish simply because they are denied. The more a person tries to suppress what they feel, the stronger those emotions become. It is in this struggle between suppression and awareness that true feelings begin to emerge. A man who has spent years suppressing emotions may not even recognize them when they appear. He may mistake longing for confusion, sadness for irritation, or love for nostalgia. But as time passes and the absence persists, the truth becomes more difficult to ignore. The emotions that were once hidden beneath distractions are now front and center, demanding to be acknowledged. It is in this process that a man's true feelings are revealed, not because someone told him how to feel, but because the space allowed him to feel for himself. This is why stepping back is not about manipulation, but about clarity. It is not about forcing an emotional response, but about allowing one to surface naturally. When a man is left with only his thoughts and emotions, he has no choice but to confront what is real. And what is real cannot be hidden forever. Suppressed emotions always find a way to rise, whether through dreams, thoughts, sudden memories, or an unexplained emotional pull. In the end, the process of stepping back serves as an emotional mirror. It does not create feelings that were not already there, it simply reveals them. It forces a man to sit with himself, to feel without interference, and to face emotions he may have spent years avoiding. And when those emotions rise, when they can no longer be ignored, they bring with them a truth that words alone could never uncover. On the conscious mind's attempts to analyze relationships. Every interaction carries a vibrational frequency, a flow of energy that can either attract or repel. When two people engage consistently, their energies intertwine, creating an invisible thread that binds them. This connection is not always obvious, especially when routine and familiarity mask its presence. But when one person steps back, the energy dynamic shifts, revealing the true nature of the bond in ways that words never could. Stepping back is not just a physical act, it is an energetic recalibration. When a person pulls away, they remove their energy from the equation. If they were always available, always reaching out, always present, their energy was being consistently offered, creating a pattern of expectation. The other person may have become accustomed to receiving that energy without fully recognizing its significance. But when that energy is withdrawn, a space is created, a void where something once flowed freely. This space forces an energetic response. And in that response, truth is revealed. A man may not realize how much he was connected to someone until their energy is no longer accessible. The subconscious mind registers this absence long before the conscious mind does. He may feel a shift within himself, restlessness, unease, or a pull toward that person without fully understanding why. These are not random reactions. They are energetic imprints left behind by the connection. When a strong energy is suddenly missing, the body and mind feel it. There is an energetic withdrawal, similar to how a person feels when they stop engaging in something they have deeply conditioned themselves to expect. Energetic ties operate beyond logic. A man may convince himself that he does not care, that he has moved on, that he is unaffected by someone's absence. But energy is not controlled by logic. It is felt in quiet moments, in unexpected thoughts, in sudden waves of emotion that seem to come from nowhere. He may find himself thinking about that person without intending to, feeling drawn to them without understanding why. This is the undeniable nature of energy. It exists regardless of conscious effort to suppress or ignore it. One of the clearest signs of energetic attachment is how a person responds when their access to someone's energy is removed. If there is no real energetic bond, if the connection was surface level, there will be no strong reaction. The absence will be noted, but it will not create an internal shift. However, if there was a true energetic connection, the response will be different. He may feel unsettled, distracted, or emotionally affected in ways he cannot explain. These reactions are evidence of an energetic link that was always there, but perhaps unnoticed until the flow of energy was disrupted. Stepping back also allows a person to reclaim their own energy. Often in relationships, people give energy freely without realizing how much they are investing. They pour their thoughts, emotions, and time into another person, creating a continuous energetic exchange. When this becomes one-sided, with one person constantly giving while the other passively receives, an imbalance occurs. By stepping back, the giver reclaims their energy, breaking the cycle of unconscious giving and allowing the natural energetic balance to reset. This shift not only affects the one stepping back, but also the one experiencing the absence. The energetic shift created by stepping back forces a man to confront what was previously hidden beneath surface interactions. If he truly values the connection, he will feel the absence in a way that compels him to act. He may reach out, feel a stronger desire to reconnect, or experience an inner realization about what the relationship meant to him. If he does not feel the loss, if he remains unaffected, that in itself is an answer. Energy does not lie. It either pulls or it fades. This process is not about testing someone, but about allowing truth to emerge. Many people seek verbal confirmation of feelings, wanting to hear words that validate a connection. But energy speaks louder than words. A man's true emotions are not always expressed in what he says, but in how he responds when an energetic presence is no longer available to him. If the connection was real, if the energy was mutual, he will feel it in ways that go beyond words. If it was never truly there, the absence will not create an energetic shift. And that too is a truth worth knowing. Energy, like nature, seeks balance. When a person constantly gives, they create an expectation in the energetic field. When they step back, they disrupt that pattern, forcing the other person to either adjust to the absence or to seek reconnection. This is why stepping back is one of the most powerful ways to reveal truth. It removes external noise, leaving only the pure energetic response. What remains in that space is undeniable because energy does not deceive. It either draws someone in or it releases them. And in that realization, the deepest truths about connection are revealed. The subconscious mind is a vast network of stored experiences, emotional patterns, and conditioned responses. It operates beneath the level of conscious awareness, shaping perceptions, decisions, and behaviors in ways that often go unnoticed. When it comes to relationships, the subconscious plays a critical role in determining how a person feels, reacts, and attaches to another. Many people believe they understand their emotions in real time, but the truth is that much of what they feel is filtered through layers of past experiences and automatic programming. This is why a man may not fully grasp the depth of his emotions until he is forced into a space where his subconscious patterns are disrupted. Stepping back from a relationship creates such a disruption. When a person is constantly present, engaging in conversations, providing emotional support, or simply being available, their presence becomes a familiar part of the subconscious landscape. The mind registers them as a constant, something that does not require active reflection. But when that presence is removed, the subconscious mind begins to process the change in a way that the conscious mind may not immediately recognize. This process happens beneath the surface in a space where true emotions exist, without the interference of rationalization or external influences. One of the ways the subconscious reveals true emotions is through emotional residue. When someone steps back, the energy they once contributed to the relationship is suddenly missing. The subconscious, which had adapted to that energy, now finds itself in an unfamiliar state. This absence triggers an internal recalibration. A man may start experiencing unexpected emotions, nostalgia, restlessness, even sadness, without fully understanding why. These emotions arise not because something new has developed, but because what was always there is now coming into conscious awareness. Dreams are another way the subconscious processes emotions. When the mind is free from daily distractions, suppressed feelings often emerge in symbolic ways. A man who has been avoiding his emotions might start having dreams about the person who stepped back, reliving moments, feeling their presence in ways he didn't consciously acknowledge before. This is the subconscious attempting to process what the conscious mind has ignored. It is a sign that deeper emotions are present, waiting to be acknowledged. Another significant indicator of subconscious emotions is the presence of emotional triggers. When someone steps back, a man may initially convince himself that he is unaffected. He may believe he is indifferent, that nothing has changed. But then something small, a song, a familiar place, a passing memory, triggers an unexpected emotional response. These triggers are direct messages from the subconscious, revealing the depth of feelings that had been stored away. They occur because the subconscious holds on to emotional connections long after the conscious mind has attempted to move forward. The power of stepping back lies in its ability to bypass the mind's habitual defenses. When a relationship is in a constant state of engagement, the mind does not need to confront deeper emotions because it is busy reacting to immediate stimuli. However, when engagement is removed, the subconscious is left with no choice but to process what remains. This is why some men, after experiencing distance, suddenly feel a wave of clarity about their emotion. It is not that they suddenly developed feelings. It is that the space allowed those feelings to surface. Subconscious recognition often happens in stages. At first, there may be a sense of relief as the mind adjusts to the absence of familiar interactions. Then, as time passes, emotional imprints begin to emerge. Random thoughts about the person, unexplained feelings of loss, or an inner pull toward reconnection. This is the subconscious revealing what was always there, but previously overshadowed by routine and distraction. The depth of a man's emotions is not measured by what he says in the moment, but by what lingers in his subconscious when all external engagement is removed. One of the strongest indicators of subconscious emotions is the way a person behaves when faced with true absence. If there was no emotional depth, if the connection was surface level, the subconscious will not react strongly. The mind will adjust easily, moving forward without much internal conflict. But if the connection was significant, if there were unspoken emotions beneath the surface, the subconscious will not let go so easily. It will keep pulling thoughts back to the person, creating moments of reflection and even a physical sense of longing. This process is not about manipulation, but about clarity. When someone steps back, they are not forcing emotions to appear. They are allowing space for emotions that were already present to be recognized. The subconscious does not lie. It holds the truth of how a person really feels, even when the conscious mind attempts to deny or ignore it. It is in the quiet moments, in the space between interactions, that the subconscious begins to reveal what was always there. The deepest truths in relationships are not always found in words, but in the spaces between them. Stepping back is not about creating distance for the sake of it. It is about allowing clarity to emerge where confusion once existed. It is in that space where routine no longer masks emotion, where energy is no longer unconsciously given, that a man is forced to confront his true feelings. If the connection was genuine, if the emotions were real, they will surface in ways that cannot be denied. The subconscious will process what the conscious mind ignored. The heart will feel what logic tried to suppress. And the energetic pull will reveal what words never could. This is the power of space. It is not absence. It is a mirror. It reflects what was always there, hidden beneath distractions, expectations, and suppressed emotions. It allows truth to rise organically without force or pressure. When you step back, you do not lose control. You gain insight, you shift from seeking validation to witnessing authenticity. Because in the end, real emotions cannot be hidden, and true connections will always withstand the test of space. Good luck on your journey to understanding the deeper layers of connection. May you always find the clarity you seek, and may the truth reveal itself in the most profound and unexpected ways. Thank you for your time and energy, wishing you insight, strength, and love.